welcome to another edition of The Captains. Joining me today is none other than the 1990 through to 1993 or 92 Cup match captains, Wendell Smith for St. George's and Andre Manders for Somerset. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this edition of The Captains. Obviously, in 1990, Doc, your first Cup match as captain. Take us through those moments leading up to that particular match.
Well, I could take you through picking the team that night.
How difficult was it?
Oh, it was difficult. You got to remember back then, it was a lot different than now. Being that it was the first year of Somerset, you cannot lose the trophy. So even if you had St. George's in trouble and you tried to go for the win and you lose, remember now it was a money thing, so a lot of politics involved. So you have to try to not lose and try to keep that cup up there for the next year because it was 2 years there, not one.
Right.
So and picking the team that night was the first thing. I always thought cup match being captain was going to be difficult, but I never knew, going in and picking the team, trying to pick 11 players, it was very difficult. Now you got 5 or 6 other selectors, and sometimes you don't always get the team that you want. So, but it was a learning experience. I kind of got at least 8 or 9, 10 of the players I wanted. So, and it was one I can't remember who it is, but we went along with that. And then they had to present the team to the members. And then if the members don't like it, we have to go back and pick another team. So when we announced the team that night, luckily everybody agreed, and we went with that team.
Yeah. Well, Wendell, going to Somerset, Doc is fresh, a new captain. They had tried so many people because Perry maybe had a time before that. Knowing what type of person Doc is and a leader at the time he was, what was going through your mind as far as the selector's mind when picking the St. George's team for the 1990 game?
Well, back then we had an abundance of top players, and it was very competitive. I'm talking about Charlie Marshall, Arnold Manders, Clevie Wade, Clay Smith, Dean Miners, Noel Gibbons. Then you had the Burlers, and of course, then you had the St. Georgians who were coming into their own, like Ricky Hudson, Graham Fox, David Adams, and so it was always difficult picking St. George's team. And there were years when people got dropped. I can remember we were just talking, Andre and I, that in 91, I believe it was, St. George's went without 2 openers. Alan Richardson was on all 5 selectors teams. There's only 5 selectors. And in the final analysis, he was taken out so that one of the aforementioned people I spoke of could make that team up. In the end, Arnold Manders ended up opening with me when we had a run chase of about 207 or something like that. And we ended up putting on 143 for the opening stand. So it worked out. But it was always a great sense of pride making cup match. And as you know, Don St. George's the night before, or the night that the team was picked, it would be ram-packed. St. George's, for some reason, though, has a history of, even back then, waiting very late to announce the team. Even if we had it picked in a couple hours, they'd say, look, let's hold off for another 45 minutes and let the bar accumulate some funds. But anyway, it was a great sense of pride. And we had some very, very dedicated cricketers. I never had to worry about if guys would come and train. And even the Somerset players, I remember seeing Albert Steed and Doc himself running all the time. You had players who were fully committed to cricket.
Yeah. Doc, obviously you don't have the cup and you're trying to, as you said, make sure, because back then, if you lost in your first year as host, you kind of lost the host in the game as well. So 90, you're trying to make sure that you're going to be the host in 91, and then in 91 you get the opportunity to play again, and then you're looking at you're staring down a chance, as Wendell said earlier, a chance to win because you have to take those chances. Take us through that 91, what was going on, when you decided it was time to give St. George's that time to chase, and obviously it didn't work out in your favor.
Well, let me take you back to 1990 first. And I remember I don't know if Wendell remembers this, we had St. George's in trouble in 1990. And Alan Douglas and Clarkie Trott came here to save him. I think they made a 98 run ninth wicket stand that took St. George's out of trouble, right? So, in the back of my mind now, I'm like, I'm got these guys. And 1990 was a draw. But when you think about it, like, you can't lose the game. So if you got St. George's in trouble and you really want to, go for the kill, and you're like, hey, don't lose this game, So it was in my mind, but that was my first year, and I really didn't want to take no chances. And it ended up being a draw, but it was a good game. But in 1991, being that the cup was going, being that we was going to St. George's anyway, we hadn't won the cup, was a lot of draws, and people wanted to see some, a change, like somebody to win. But at that time, I really, really thought like 202. I said, well, I'll give him a chance. That I didn't think Wendell was going to go for it. Being that was only like an hour, about 40 minutes and 20 overs. But, St. George's, they had a lot of betting, and they got a good start. I mean, you look, we was only back burners. I tried wasting time so they won't get the score, and they still end up getting it. But in 1991, like I said, he was able to take that chance. But if I was able to take that chance in 1990, where we had him in serious trouble, it might have been a little different. But I'm glad they changed it now to year about, because, that takes all the politics out of the game, and a lot of the players could go now and just concentrate on the cricket, especially the captains too, because, as a captain, you hate to lose your first year when it was 2 years about.
And what was your first time captaincy like, especially cup match?
I took over in 85 and stayed until 92. But Andre is absolutely correct, because I can remember Louis Red de Silva coming to me before every cup match back then, and he was saying, whatever you do, don't lose. I don't care if you draw, but you just better not lose, because when you're talking about the way the scenario worked, as Andre was alluding to, the first year cup match could stay at this club for 2 years, and so you're talking about a considerable sum of money. So even if you were in a position to declare, even as the cup holders, to give the other team a chance to win and possibly lose yourself, you're looking at a lot of money that would have been lost by the cup on the other hand. But to be honest with you, there was one thing that I'm so glad two things the clubs did that was really positive. One, they added an extra hour onto each day. And then when they stopped having when they made it year about, it meant that both teams could just go for a win if they wanted. But even then, you notice the cup holders have tended to produce very, very placid wickets. I mean, a couple of years ago, Somerset did win up Somerset, but when you saw the two opening bats, in fact, I think the first four batsmen for Somerset all got 50 plus. Stephen Otterbridge, the Douglas opening batsman, and then you also had Terence Frey. It was very easy. And in 92, Andre would tell you that wicket on St. George's was like a road. That's that Clay and I batted together and scored hundreds. But to be honest, I tell people my grandmother probably could have got runs on that wicket. It was very, very true. And so there were a lot of draws back then with one last hour. It made it difficult. One of the teams had to play really dreadful or declare, as Andre said, and Charlie Marshall did that. We batted well up Somerset one year. We declared on 200 and something, and Somerset pulled the score down and won. But Charlie said, look, I'm not going out there to play for a draw. And that's the year that Glenn Blakeney and bless his soul and Clay went out there, and it was like in 30 minutes we had 50. In 1 hour we had 100. And it was probably the most exciting opening partnership I've seen ever in cup match, because they were kind of rivaling each other. I don't know if you remember that, Doc, where they would seem like they were competing with each other to see who could beat the ball more.
Yeah,
but in the end, we ended up declaring and losing, but we had to. We didn't have the cup.
That is so true, Wendell, because Charlie was thinking on the lines what I was thinking. People come to cricket, they like to see teams win, and then and nobody likes to lose. But with that extra hour they got now, with the 20 overs, it helps a lot. Remember, back then the games just finished 6:30. Now they got 7:30.
Right.
I think it even starts a little earlier.
It does.
Right. So they got plenty more time. Whereas when I was captain, like 5:30, you 20 overs, 6:30 the game's finished. So it was very difficult to win unless, like Wendell said, unless you was playing on a very bad wicket. And back then you don't really want to do that because people come to watch cricket. You don't want to see the wicket jumping around. Sometimes clubs want to do that, to get results, but I'm not really for that. I like to see. I want to see a pleasant wicket. I like to see a wicket where the bowler, you could get some swing, assist the bowlers, any batsman. But very recently, in the last maybe 5-6 years, you've been seeing wickets that both clubs have been preparing, and the wickets have been pretty good.
Yeah. And when I said, Earl, about earlier, we still started 10 o'clock back then, but if you've noticed, if it rains on one day, they have regulations whereby you can make up some lost time. And that happened up Somerset one year. So things have been put in place to try to facilitate a result these days.
Wendell, as a opening bat, and when you're a captain, when do you like, or what do you like to do when winning the toss? If all the weather and everything is okay, what do you like to do?
Well, you know what? That's a really, really good question, because I'm gonna be totally honest with you. People may be surprised to hear that. There were times when I was skipper where I was unsure what to do, because if it's very overcast, and the ball's going to swing around, you're tempted to want to bowl first. But then weather changes within an hour and it becomes sunny and hot. People are going to then ridicule you. Why did you take the field? So there were times when I didn't mind if I lost the toss. But generally now I would prefer to bat, because the fact is most of Bermuda's cricketers are not as fit as they should be. So when you have to field out on that first day, and let's say a team bats until 3 o'clock, you're talking about, or 3:30, a considerable amount of sun, and then turn around and go back into bat. It's not easy if you're not fit. But like I say, back then, guys put in their extras. Arnold used to tell me how he'd go up on the beach, and like I say, you'd see a lot of people doing their running. But that's a really good question. I don't know how Andre feels about it, because look at Somerset last year. They came down St. George's, and because there was a bit of grass on it, and I was glad when it rained a little bit about 15 minutes before the match started. I had a feeling they would send us in. But look what happened. We ended up getting 297.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Wendell. Sometimes I was wishing that I lost the toss too. I tell you, in 1992, and I'm dreading it now. I still think about it. Wendell's probably smarter than I won the toss 19 Georges on that plastic wicket, and I sent St. George's in. But that's not the problem. We did get an early wicket. It was coming off. It had a little bit of moisture in it. But after about, I think maybe about not even an hour and a half, the wicket played so good. We had an early wicket. I can't remember who was built. I can't remember. I think Arnold
went within the first 10 runs.
Right.
Yeah. Something then. Wendell and Clay came in, and then that's all she wrote. I mean, we tried everything, and we couldn't get them up. And like you said, and the wicket really was really good. And that ended up being a draw too. But sometimes you get some exciting draws too. You know, it's. I mean, back then it was a lot of exciting draws. Like, you know, but right now, you know, with the extra hours and like Wendell said, the Etnian time for rain, you could, you know, you sometimes don't get dark to like 7:30, 48, so you could play late. But back then they never, you know, there was always talk about maybe putting an extra hour or playing overs, and I never believed in overs. I mean, I think they done the right thing by adding an extra hour at the game delayed, maybe including, you know, some more time on, and now you see there's a lot of more results. But I already hope that I lost the toss.
It's funny to hear that, because most people go out there when you're out into the middle, and obviously you're walking out with the other captain. In your mind, you want to look like you're confident enough, but there's so many elements that you're trying to take in, weather, wind, you know, what the wicket's going to play like. And like you said, Wendell, and you said it, Doc, it depends on what the wicket looks like and how do you want to attack things. But Wendell, in your time, a lot of people looked at the teams in Georgia's head at that time had basically more settled players. Somerset was kept changing around a bit because they were trying to get that working team to try and beat St. George's. But having that settled team, how confident were you each time going into the selection to pick a team?
What was a blessing was when you have an abundance of riches, and by that I mean you're going to probably leave out somebody who's a quality player, because we had to always tell people you can only pick 11. And I mean, when you're talking about Adrian King, you're talking about Roger Leverett, Clarkie Trott, Kenny Phillips, Dale Fox, even in the Anthony Brathwaite, just there you've got about 5 or 6 names I've called, and you normally want to take about 3. And then in the spin department, you got David Chick Adams, Maxwell Curtis, Eugene Fogo, Stanley Smith when he was around playing, Arnold Manders. That you just had so many to pick from. And Arnold's made a point to tell me, he says, Wendell, I've been dropped before. I remember one year we dropped Charlie. He never lets me live that down. And the second year, Clay came out, had a fantastic year. And the very next year, I was on the selection committee and dropped him. That's the only time I cried over cup match. And that was the night we dropped him. I sat on top of my roof at my house and realized that I purposely dropped my brother because he wanted to party and hang out. And I said, I'm going to break him real early. But I don't think I broke him out of that habit, because he started telling people, I'm hanging out and still making runs. So, you know, what's the big deal?
Well, Doc, what would you consider the toughest time you would have had when trying to pick one of those 3 teams that you were the leader of?
See, back then we never had the trophy, so you always got to lean towards bringing in more bowlers. You know, sometimes you might have to get rid of a batsman. Then again, you don't know what the wicket's going to be like. You know, cup match. We always used to look at the final trial to try to gauge to see if the spinners was getting wickets, or sometimes you'd be calling right off of the game, say what's the results in the final trial, but you never know. But being at Somerset didn't have the trophy, you know, we was trying to always pick the most informed bowlers, and you know, back then we had a lot of bowlers to choose from. You know, Terry Bridges, the late Terry Bridges, Anthony Pace Edwards, and you know, Roger Blades, Edward Clay for Police. You know, Rodney Fobler. We had so many bowlers, but it was just on that day who to pick. You know what I mean? Because it don't make sense. Even Alan Brown taking a bowler, you know, pace bowler down at St. George's where the wicket's taking spin. So it's difficult, but you know, those are the chances you have to take. You know, and you know, like I said, it's kind of easy when you got the trophy, because then you could stack your your team with an extra batsman, because you have the trophy. And when you don't, you're gonna look. You need another batsman. Take an all-rounder, and then you try to take a extra spinner or maybe another pacer, and that's what I always try to do when I was captain. But all the time we don't get that. It's different selectors. It's people that was on form at the time. The people that are not on form. So it's a difficult thing when you're not got the trophy. Wendell had it easy. He had the trophy. He had a lot of good players too. He had a lot of good all-rounders. He had Cleve, he had Noel, he had Arnold, all-rounders. 3 all-rounders right there in the team. Ricky Hutzel, another all-rounder. They had, St. George's had a abundance of play. I don't know how Wendell used to do it. And back then, in St. George's days, you take a lot of the league players because the league players was doing really good. Whereas in Somerset, when I was captain, I had to leave Western Stars to go play for Somerset to be captain. So when I got there, we done really well in the league, and a lot of our league players was doing really good. I mean, really good. There were some players that I felt that probably couldn't play a cup match, because we came 4th in the league, 3rd or 4th in the league, and that was the highest they finished in a long time. So we was looking at some Somerset players, but I think we took Gladwin at this. Maybe Reggie was reserve. I can't remember because Perry was injured. That's why I went up to Somerset. Then we took a few Willicott's players. So, it's difficult at the time. They're picking that team. Sometimes you have friends before you pick the team, then you lose them afterwards. So
that's
just that's one of those things where you have to try to pick a nice balanced team, and as being captain, you most of the time you want the team that that you feel that could win the trophy, but not all the time you get that.
You know what, Doc? The other thing you said that's so true about being the challengers, how much more difficult it is. One variable that's so important in cricket is catching and drop catches. When you don't have the trophy and you drop catches and then a batsman stays in a little bit longer or a lot longer, it hurts you. Last year was a typical example down St. George's. I thought we batted brilliantly. We had 4 people, I believe, who had half centuries, 297. Then we dropped 7 catches. When you don't have the trophy, you can't afford to do that. But luckily, back then, our league team, we practiced really hard and did a lot of fielding practice. And that was one of the keys to our success back then. But a couple points I wanted to say, Earl, is we had guys who would work construction, like Graham, Calabash, Squiggy. But yet, I would never have to worry about if they're coming training. They would come training and work real hard. I remember D. Minor saying, Wendell, we're training like we're a test team. This is, we're not getting paid. But the thing is, and you're talking earlier about how did I feel, we would go to matches feeling confident because we knew we had put in the work. But I wanted to ask Andre one question because I've never had the opportunity to ask him that. And I'm going to preface it with this. Andre, once down St. George's, I remember getting caught by Ricky Hills. He was standing up, and I thought the ball hit my sweater, but he ran to the square leg umpire, and made a lot of fuss, and I was giving out. A couple years later, I was up Somerset, and I'm being honest, I edged this ball, and I was going to second slip, and the wicketkeeper took it. But the umpire thought it deviated off the pitch, and he didn't give me out. I would like to, so I'm being honest. Do you remember that shot you went for down at the Ponciana and up Somerset when you were batting? I think you ended up getting 50, but it was early in the innings, and you went for a cut or hook, and the whole team of St. George's went out. Would you like to let us know now if you edged that ball? Being I was honest about what? Let's put his hand on. Let's put his hand on.
Wendell, is this when Anthony Trott was the wicketkeeper?
I think it was Alan Douglas. If my memory serves me correct, you were batting down at the southern end where the Ponciana tree was, and somebody bounced you. And you know how you used to like to cut. I think it was Roger Levrock or king, and the wicketkeeper took it jumping up, and for some reason the umpire didn't give you out, and you didn't walk, but you ended up getting a good 50 after. Do you remember getting 50 up Somerset?
Yeah, I got a few 50s up Somerset, and but I don't remember that one. I can't say, maybe I did hit it, but I wasn't gonna walk. But I remember another time at Anthony Trott was wicket down. I think that's when you guys, that was 91 when you won, isn't it?
He took about 4 or 5 catches. You're right.
Right. And I remember one time I made runs again. I think I got 50 something, and I did go for a pull shot, and it came over, flicked my pad and hit my glove, and everybody, well, Anthony appealed, and maybe 1 or 2 other people, but nobody else appealed, and the umpire didn't give me out, and I know at that time I hit the ball. But
that's what. You weren't gonna walk, huh?
No, but no. Anthony knew, and I knew. He looked at me. He smiled, and I smiled back at him. But strangely, Wendell, nobody else didn't appeal. It was just him, and not any Burler. No, the Burler didn't appeal. So
I'll tell you what, the Burler couldn't have been Chick Adams, because he would have appealed. I'll tell you that.
No, I don't think it was Chick. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was, I don't know, it was Calabash, or can't remember who it was, but it was a slight, it came, just brushed your glove, and that's to say, like I said, that's the same year Anthony got fooled him. Yeah. That would probably be his 5th one, you never know.
Did you play in the game on Somerset where Albert batted well and Somerset were down to the last over? You were talking about how it could have been an exciting draw. Roger Trott was in, and then that overthrow went over Dean's head, and Somerset won.
I was the one that hit the ball and Clark overthrew.
Okay, I thought Roger Trott was in with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Roger Trott, but I hit it.
Okay.
And it went on to, he was
long off.
Long off, yes, long off. And he's got a good arm, but I tell you what. He threw it in because we wasn't going to run anyway.
And but you realized Roger Trott would have been on strike.
Exactly. So, and there was nobody backing up. Nobody came run. If somebody would just came around to back up, but they didn't have a chance. So they didn't think.
They wouldn't have stopped because he rifled that ball in.
He threw it in so quick, and the thing about it, he didn't have to, because Roger was down the other end. So he, and I think it was the last over. It was maybe about 4 or 5 balls left.
It was about 3 balls left, yeah. And that was the first win for a long time from I think when Clevey took it from John Tucker in 83 to 96. That's why these guys up Somerset, they're enjoying winning right now. But St. George's have had a couple of times where we've been on a run also. But It's a wonderful feeling to win, though. I'll tell you, Earl. Coming back from Somerset when we had the boat and people would be down the square, and I know Doc can remember marching the cup of Daxter Bays. It's a wonderful feeling.
Well, I'm won twice. When I first played in 1982, you remember that, Wendell? You played. That's when Alan Richards up Somerset.
Yeah, that's when Alden Rana got struck in his head, I think.
No, that was 79. He got struck in his head.
No, that was 79.
No, 79. 82 was when you beat us up some. That's right. Tyrone Smith was playing. I think Tyrone and Ricky. Right.
That's when the national team came back from England. They done really well. I think they went into the finals. Yes, and I think they played Zimbabwe. No, they played Canada. Canada or Zimbabwe, and they lost.
Yeah.
Right, and then Joe Bailey was retiring, and they was only going to make one change. Stevie was supposed to come in, and to take Joe Bailey's spot. But I was, and at the time I was playing all the cup match. I remember that I was playing all the cup match trials up in Somerset. I'm like, geez, here I am playing 4 or 5 cup match trials, making a little bit of runs, and the talk was, Joe Bailey out, Stevie Liping in. So I was like, this last trial, I'm just gonna go for it. And I ended up making 100 to get in, and then Stevie was reserve, and I got in. And that same year we won, 1982. I remember that good. But that's the first time we won And then, like you said, the other time was when Clarkie threw the ball away.
So why did you not follow your brother down to St. George's, Arnold?
Well, being that I went to school up in Somerset,
Okay.
I went Sands, and I always, we were friendly with a lot of the guys that was up there at the time. I played cricket and football for Sands, and I knew most of the players. I said, well, I think my best time, and not only that, I had spoke to John Tucker, and a couple of other players like Colin Blades, and a lot of the guys that were in the national team at the time, and Somerset was looking for young players, so I thought my chances was good making it in Somerset.
Okay.
Well,
even though my mother was St. George.
Because I was going to say that too. Yes.
Yes.
A tough time in the
family too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I enjoy my years. If I had to do it again, I don't know if I'd be doing captain again, because those 3 years was very different. It was my worst 3 years in cup match, like making runs, because I used to bet myself where the team needed me. And, it wasn't all about me making runs. It was like, if we needed runs, I'd send somebody else out up there to, that could hit the ball. When you look, I'm supposed to be betting 4 or 5. I ended up betting 7 or 8. And, at that time, it was all about trying to win. So, but, there was 3 good years captaining the team. But I don't know if I would do it again, because back then it was too much politics. Right now, it's a little bit easier being Europe out. It takes a lot of pressure off the captains, which is good.
That's true.
Wendell, any final words?
I'd just like to say that it was an honor to play cup match. I really, really loved the atmosphere of cup match, and there was no other experience like it. I mean, even playing international, it's strange. I never quite made many big scores away, but it was something about playing cup match where you just wanted to do your best, because you knew that everybody would remember what happened at cup match, and it was a privilege when I went into that team. My first year, because I'm under some of his first year, I walked in a change room that had Lloyd James, Neville Darrell, Rupert Scotland, Elton Rayner, Clarence Barford, Dennis Wainwright, and these were players that I used to, when I was playing tennis ball cricket, emulated. You're playing tennis ball cricket in the yard or on the road, and I'd say, I'm Dennis Wainwright, or I'm batsman, I'm Rupert Scotland. So it was just an honor, and I just hope our players of today and in the future realize the great tradition that it is, so that they will give it their best performances, because there have been some performances in recent years that, not so much last year, but from St. George's point of view, in the past 6 or 7 years, that have been lacking. But things are turning around. But it was. I just want to say it was a great honor to represent St. George's and be a part of cup match.
Doc, any final words for you?
Sam, I like I said, I was probably the only one. I don't know if Wendell went away to school, so his missed cup match. I was probably maybe the few that has played 14. I played 14 straight years in cup match. Not too many players have done that. It was always maybe form. People get hurt. People go to school or different reasons. Sometimes they have tournaments around that time, but I was very fortunate to play 14 straight years. And, like Wendell said, I cherish every moment of it. 3 years as being captain. And that was, like I said, I always wanted to play cup match. I never thought I'd be captain, but I was glad for those 3 years, to be captain. And I was glad Somerset gave me the opportunity to come up there to be captain. But like I said, it's tradition. I enjoyed the whole, from the week before to the end to everything, and really enjoyed my cup match over the years. And I
think he's frozen, but I think he was extending the fact that, yeah, he enjoyed himself at Somerset and the cup match festivities and the atmosphere, because there's nothing like cup match when everybody around is in just in a joyous mood. Even if your team's in trouble, you might go quiet for a little bit, but things seem to swing around every once in a while. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this edition of the Captains. Wendell Smith and Andre Manders, the captains of St. George's Cricket Club and Somerset Cricket Club. I want to thank you guys again, and do enjoy the rest of your day.